So originally this video was going to be something very different. It was originally going to be a solo review of me reviewing Blair Witch 1 and Blair Witch 2, but after the debate that we had last night, I figured that this would be a much better and more interesting video to do. So hey guys, JamesMCD Reviews here. I'm here with my girlfriend. How you doing?
I'm here. No, I'm good.
And welcome to another episode of the Cinematic Bucket List series. And today, we're going to be talking about The Blair Witch Project, released in 1999, directed by Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez. The film takes place in 1994 and centers around 3 film students going out into the woods in Maryland, making a documentary about the infamous Blair Witch. So, I actually really liked this movie. You
did not really like it.
So I'm gonna... I was really interested, like, to just kind of get your... I wanted to do this more just to get both perspectives, because apparently this movie has been pretty, like, divisive. Like, a lot of people who see it, like, there are some people that see it as, you know, one of the scariest movies of all time, whereas other people just see it as kind of overhyped and not really all that good. So I'm gonna let you make your opening argument first, and then I'll say what I want to say.
Okay. Before I say anything bad about this movie, I do want to say the good things that I thought about it. You know, I can see where, like, the atmosphere and, like, the horror aspects come from, and there's a lot of, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Back in that time, this is one of the first movies of its kind where it's, like, a horror documentary.
Well, it was the first, like, found footage type of movie. Like, this movie pioneered, like, movies like Cloverfield and Paranormal Activity and other, like, you know, handheld, like, you know, student film type of, like, found footage movies.
And this movie was a huge deal back then. Like, the marketing that they put through and the drastic measures they put in to get people hyped for this movie.
When they brought this movie to film festivals, they legitimately put up missing posters for the actors. They were genuinely trying to convince people. They didn't really do a whole lot of press. There wasn't a whole lot of information about this movie. So there were people that saw this movie and genuinely thought that this was real found footage and that these actors actually went missing.
And I think if I maybe went into this not knowing that it wasn't real, or that maybe if the room was dark, I would have been scared. But I spend a lot of the movie just being kind of annoyed by the characters arguing with each other. I do love when they're showing off horror aspects, like when they're showing the effigies thing hung, when they're showing off, like, the scary things that are happening. But I do feel like there are certain areas that, you know, could be cut. They literally spend what feels like 30 minutes arguing about the map through the movie. like it's the same thing, and it's a lot of woods, and it's a lot of, like, dark shots where you're not seeing anything as a viewer, and sometimes you can't even hear a lot of what's going on around them. James's argument was that kind of adds to the horror aspect of it, but for me personally, it just, you know, I'm going into the movie and I want to see what I'm there to see. And if I'm not getting anything out of it, you're creating an uphill thing and you're not going anywhere for it, if that makes sense.
I mean, I completely get why, like, you know, people would, like, look at, like, the middle half of this movie and see, like, the 3 of them, you know, yelling at each other and being annoyed by that. I really do. And, like, as much as I like this movie, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that it's, like, one of the greatest horror movies of all time, or that it's even perfect. Like, it's not. Like, I do agree that, you know, it is a bit, like, long, and it isn't even that long. It's only, like, an hour or 20 minutes or something like that. Like, I do think that it could have definitely been shortened. And, you know, the arguing in the woods went on, like, a bit longer than it probably needed to, but I think the positive aspects of this movie are strong enough to, like, get you past that. I really liked the beginning of this movie when, you know, they're going over, like, the mythology of the town that they're in and the Blair Witch, and when they're interviewing the townspeople and everything like that. I thought that was really good. I actually did like the characters. Like, I thought that they were... I did. I thought that they were likable, seeing them banter back and forth. Like, it makes you... It honestly, if anything, it makes it even more like frustrating when they do start arguing because they got you to like the characters in the beginning. When they start arguing, you're like, please just stop fighting and get the hell out of there, just in case anything bad does happen. When you're talking about a lot of just shots of the woods and a lot of like shaky cam and everything, you know, I would have been more likely to agree with you on that if I hadn't seen that same thing done much worse in dash cam when me and Mendy watched that earlier. There are definitely like that, and that's another thing. I mentioned this to you last night, but one of the things that, you know, that movie dash cam and the Paranormal Activity movies and really all of the like copycats that this movie spawned, what they don't really get is like subtlety. Like, this movie is intentionally a slow burn. Like, that's why you see a lot of, like, walking through the woods and a lot of just them talking and everything, is because it, like, is building up the tension and the suspense of, like, is something actually happening? Is their mind playing tricks on them? They're out in the middle of the woods with no map, no food, no water. They're losing their sanity. You can see that, like, visibly, like, in their performances. I feel like that just adds to the tension of the movie.
See, that's where I disagree with you, because it feels like it's supposed to be a slow burn, but every bit of this movie is predictable. Like, you know they're not going to get out of the forest. You know that when they go in the house, they are not coming out alive. And not only that, but it's not scary when it happens. It feels like nothing happened when they go into that house. You're like, yeah, that's gonna happen because these guys are idiots. And
I feel like the whole thing about it being predictable, you could say to like, well, one, you could say about a lot of movies and a lot of different types of horror movies, but also remember that this was like one of the first of its kind.
Oh yeah. And then what you said about them being likable characters, yeah, they're kind of likable in the beginning, but they are also extremely replaceable. I mean, they're not characters that I'm going to remember in like a year or two. You could completely replace the cast and it wouldn't really be that much different. You know, there's not much distinction between the three characters aside from this guy yells a lot, this guy tries to keep them together, this girl likes to shove her camera in everybody's face and she refuses to take it down. I wasn't getting anything out of the characters. I wasn't getting enough horror aspects. I love the beginning where they're interviewing the townspeople. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I was actually reading that, like, the actors were actually interviewing, like, the townspeople, not as actors, but just the people living there in general.
Yeah, they didn't know that the townspeople were also actors, so their reactions were, like, genuine.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of, like, really interesting, like, behind-the-scenes stuff about this movie, so I would highly recommend, like, reading into it, because it's very fascinating. You didn't find it scary because you couldn't, like, see a lot of it?
I couldn't even hear a lot of it. Like, I think it was, like, the first or the second night where they were hearing noises. I was literally, like sitting up and, like, getting closer to the TV, and I'm like, I can't hear what they're being scared of.
Well, I was gonna say, like, number one, remember the technology that they're shooting on, and this was also set in 1994, and they don't have, you know, this isn't like Columbia College, they don't have top-of-the-line, like, camera and sound equipment, and also, like, you know, I feel like, you know, the fact that you can't, like, they don't have, like, movie-quality sound or, like, visuals is kind of part of what makes it kind of creepy and eerie, is, like, it's like, it's not always about, like, what you can see, it's not always about what you can see or hear, it's about what you can't, and is your mind playing tricks on you, is something really there? Like, fun fact, there was originally going to be a Blair Witch in this movie. The Blair Witch never shows up in the finished version, but there's a scene where, when they're running out of the tent, Heather points and goes, "What the fuck is that? What the fuck?" And the camera was supposed to pan over and see a woman, like, dressed in all white just standing there, but the cameraman forgot to pan over. So, like, you know, it plays into, like, the psychology of, like, was there actually a Blair Witch? Was it just their mind playing tricks on them? The fact that it is, like, so purposefully ambiguous, like, makes it, like, effective for me personally.
I will agree to disagree.
Fair enough.
I get what they're going for. Like, yeah, the technology isn't great for that time, and, like, you want it to be true to three filmmakers in a forest recording on crap devices, but it doesn't mean you really have to be true to that to give the viewers, like, something to digest. Because, you know, you can still adjust the mixing on it, but at the same time, though, I feel like it's unfair because this movie was actually made on a really small budget. And
wasn't it like $60,000 and it made like over 200
million?
Yeah,
it's actually one of the most profited movies, like, of the horror genre.
Yeah,
like, which is pretty insane for what they worked with, but I don't know. Me personally, I would have preferred to have more to be interested in because what I'm looking for in horror movies is a good story, a good horror aspect, a good atmosphere, and I just wasn't getting a lot of that from this movie.
Fair enough. I mean, I did, like, I really got into it. Like, I thought it was very effective building the tension and building the atmosphere. There was admittedly a few, like, moments where, like, my heart was racing a bit. But, I mean, it's completely fair. I mean, like, you know, like, not everyone's going to agree on the same thing. One thing I do want to talk about, like, and I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this, but the ending is objectively the best part of the movie. Like, once they get to the house is when the movie starts to pick up steam. I feel like you're disagreeing with me.
I mean, you're not wrong, but then it ends. Like, give us more of that. Give us more excitement. Don't give us more of them arguing about the
if you want more of that, you can go watch Paranormal Activity.
I will!
Or any of the...
I will watch Paranormal Activity.
Or
than this
any of the other, like, clones of this movie. Like, I feel like this movie prioritized, you know, the slow build as opposed to the spectacle, which I get isn't everyone's cup of tea, but, like, I don't know, I kind of appreciated that, as opposed to, you know, relying on, like, cheap jump scares or, you know, like, bad special effects and things like that.
I don't know. For me...
Again, maybe this is just after me coming off of watching Dashcam. I have a deeper appreciation for this movie, but, like, I really liked it.
I know, but for this one, the slow burn was more of not the scary stuff, but the focus of the story with the teenagers losing their minds. To me, that's not scary when they're, like, trudging through the daytime and, like, bitching at each other. And a good majority of the movie was exactly that, you know? You can't just say this is a good movie because the maybe 10 or 15 minutes of the horror aspect being good.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that it's a good movie based on the last 10 minutes. I'm saying the rest of the movie.
I mean, like, the nights and, like, the house scene. Those scenes combined together couldn't have been more than 30 minutes. And the majority of it was with the characters just, you know...
Again, the slow burn.
It's not a slow burn, though.
Yes, it is.
It's not a slow burn to watch people arguing with each other.
It's a slow burn to watch them, you know...
It's a migraine, that's what it is.
But they're, like I said, they're in the woods, they're hungry. Apparently the actors were actually, like, given less food as the shooting days went on.
That's
so, like,
true.
you know, the actors are actually, like, very irritable and, like, pissed off and paranoid that something might be after them. So, like, would you be, like, if we were out in the forest together and we didn't have, like, we kept getting lost and, you know, we didn't have food or water or a way to get back, like, would you be, like, super happy and optimistic the whole time? Like, I'm sure you would be frustrated at me.
Obviously not, but I wouldn't just, like let it hang in the air, like, what's not on my mind. Because none of them even admit that they're scared and that they think that something's genuinely after them. They're all trying to play it off up until the third act of the movie. They're like, okay, let's just get out of here, let's just keep focused. They're trying to dismiss what's all that's happening to them without actually discussing it.
I feel like that, like, the whole dismissing it is in character, because, again, they're teenage film students. They're just doing this, you know, for extra credit or like on a project. Like, you know, they don't actually, like, believe this shit. Like, they're just going there, you know, just to have fun, and then everything goes horribly wrong.
Yeah.
So, honestly, like, this is, I'm glad that we're doing this. Like, even though we disagree wholeheartedly on this movie, like, I'm at least glad that we got to do this, to, like,
have a discussion.
Because, like, most times when we see a movie together, like, we more or less have the same opinion. Like normally, like I'm a little bit like harsher on a movie than you are, but we tend to have the same sort of opinions on it. But like this is one of the first times that I can think of where we've been like genuinely like split on a movie. But I mean, like if anything, like I just kind of feel sorry that you didn't have the same experience that I did. Like
I'm sorry I didn't get the same experience as you did. Like, I don't know, maybe I just need to rewatch it with the right atmosphere around me, but like, do you really
the right atmosphere.
Do you really think that a movie should require you to set the atmosphere in your room? I don't know.
I mean, like,
maybe that's me being harsh, but
I will say I did watch like a few reviews last night, like after we finished watching it, and apparently it is like you definitely get into it more when you're watching it in a theater. Yeah. So like this is one where I actually would have liked to have seen it in theaters first. And like another thing that I heard, which I do think is a valid like criticism, is that it doesn't have a whole lot of replay value. Like, as much as I like this movie, I can't imagine myself rewatching it over and over again, like other horror movies that I've seen in the last, like, 5 to 10 years. Like, and especially when you know that it's not real footage and when that it's fake and everything, you know, it kind of loses that mystique a little bit. But there are still a lot of things to appreciate about it, like, on multiple viewings, which I've said already, so... but yeah, any final thoughts?
I gave this movie a 2. I know yesterday I said I'd think on it, but I really am set on a 2. I just wasn't crazy about it, and that's okay.
I gave it a 4 out of 5. Like I said, I'm not going to pretend this movie is flawless or perfect or anything, but I thought it was effective. I enjoyed watching it. And yeah, like I said, I'm at least glad that we could, you know, have a discussion and have a debate.
Like, you know, I will say this, I can see how some people might be scared of it, how they might get tense from this, but to me, it just wasn't, like, justified enough in the story or the atmosphere in the movie.
Fair enough. But yeah, I think that about does it. Thank you, babe, for coming on. I really appreciate you doing this. I love you. And
I love you too.
Again, I'm
even
sorry.
Though you're wrong. No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, I throw it over to you guys. Let us know down in the comments what you thought of Blair Witch. Did you like it? Did you get into the atmosphere and the scares, or did you think it was just a bunch of annoying people shaking a camera around for 90 minutes? Let me know that down in the comments. Also, let me know if we should watch Blair Witch 2. We were gonna watch that last night, but we were kind of tired, and also this debate was too good not to put on camera, so... but yeah, apart from that, be sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell so you can stay up to date on when I'm posting. Follow me on all my social media, subscribe to my main channel. Everything you need to know will be in the description. Thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you later.